Chairman Francis, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for that wonderful welcome. It augurs well for the result. It's very good to be here this evening, campaigning for a Conservative victory in the enterprising port of Plymouth. Actually, I was told beforehand that my arrival was unscheduled, but on my way here, I passed a local cinema, and it turns out that you were expecting me after all, for the billboards read, "The Mummy Returns." It's good to be back. Dennis also has a high regard for this fine city. In fact, so fondly does he recall it, that he always ensures our cocktail cabinet is well stocked up with Plymouth gin. Dennis isn't here with me tonight, but he's certainly here in spirit. My friends, every general election tests character as well as policies, and this one is no exception. But our party is fortunate indeed. Under William Hague's cool and gritty leadership, we have the right man with the right message. My friends, it's more than a decade since I was in the front line of politics, and I miss it a bit. That's why I'm back now. One thing hasn't changed, and I trust will never change. Ours is a party that knows what it stands for, is proud of its beliefs, and is in tune with the deepest instincts of the British people. We Conservatives changed Britain for the better, and we helped to change the world, bringing liberty to millions who'd never have known it. Moreover, let's admit it, we've changed our opponents, at least on the surface, and so made them electable, and that's tough. But we didn't, and we couldn't, make them believers in liberty or champions of enterprise. New Labour's main appeal, when you get down to it, is quite simply that it's not old Labour. And that's true as far as it goes. I had some respect for the old Labour Party, which stood for certain principles, wrong as they were. But today's Labour Party has no discernible principles at all. It is rootless, empty, and artificial. And when anything real or human surfaces despite the spin, it's the bitter, brawling bully that we hoped we'd seen the last of 20 years ago. Labour's election slogan, "Ambitions for Britain," is of course half right. They are ambitious, but not, I'm afraid, for Britain. They're certainly ambitious to extend the power of the state. That's why year after year they have piled on taxes by stealth. The British people are paying £1 billion a week of extra tax for the privilege of keeping Messrs. Blair and Brown in Downing Street. What an incentive to evict them. Labour are also ambitious to draw more and more people into dependency, diminishing liberty throttling choice. And that's why the Chancellor took away mortgage tax relief. I insisted on having relief for mortgages because we want every person, every householder to become an owner. They've taken away the relief. They've taken away the relief on tax for marriage. They've taken away the relief for private health insurance. That's why he took £5 billion a year from those who put money into private pension schemes. We, in fact, had private pension schemes very well able to get tax relief. And that's why he plans to make more and more elderly people subject to the means test. He just can't stand people being independent. Notice he'll say he didn't take down the top rate of tax. No, he took away the tax, he increased the tax by stealth, by steadily taking away the reliefs from which most of us benefited if we wish to hire our own, if we wish to buy our own houses, or in fact to look after our own health. Above all, our new Labour masters have to strut the international stage. They love to strut the international stage. It's a great deal pleasanter than facing the wrath of outraged farmers, desperate hospital patients, or demoralized policemen. Mr. Blair says he wants to lead in Europe, but the price of that is that he's expected to lead Britain by the nose into the single currency, and he's prepared to do it. I would never be prepared to give up our own currency. The greatest issue in this election, indeed the greatest issue before our country, is whether Britain is to remain a free, independent nation-state, or whether we are to be dissolved in a federal Europe. There are no half measures, there are no third ways, and there are no second choices. My friends, too many powers have already passed from our Parliament to the bureaucracy in Brussels. We must get them back, and above all, we must keep the pound. Keeping our currency is not, as Labour would have it, just a matter of economics, though the economic case grows weaker as the euro grows sicker by the day. Now, a country which loses the power to issue its own currency is a country which has given up the power to govern itself. Such a country would no longer be free, and it would no longer be truly democratic, for its people could no longer determine their own future in national elections. My friends, to surrender the pound, to surrender our power of self-government, would betray all that past generations down the ages lived and died to defend. It would also be to turn our back on America, leader of the English-speaking peoples of the world, to whom Europe, let's remember, also owes its freedom. That is not our way, and where better to take a stand than here in Plymouth. Plymouth, England's historic opening to the world. Plymouth, from where Francis Drake, Walter Raleigh, and Captain Cook set out to take the ways of these islands to the uttermost bounds of the earth. Plymouth, from where the Pilgrim Fathers left in that cockle-shell vessel on a voyage which would create the most powerful force for freedom that the world has ever known, the United States of America. My friends, New Labour in its shriveled heart, is embarrassed by our history, scornful of our achievement, oblivious of our legacy. They think that they can remove Britain's sovereignty, just as they put up Britain's taxes by stealth. They are wrong, but they are too arrogant and too remote to know it. So, my friends, a mighty burden rests on us. We have 16 days to shift opinion and to shake this rotten government to the core. That is our task. Let's go about it now. Thank you very much.
He's been in office for 6 years. He has been the leader of the Conservative Party for 11 years. He's there with his family. Watch out for this flash photography. Obviously, all the children and Sam Cam there as well.
Good afternoon. When I first stood here in Downing Street on that evening in May 2010, I said we would confront our problems as a country and lead people through difficult decisions so that together we could reach better times. It's not been an easy journey, and of course we've not got every decision right. But I do believe that today our country is much stronger. Above all, it was about turning around the economy, and with the deficit cut by 2/3, 2.5 million more people in work, and 1 million more businesses, there can be no doubt that our economy is immeasurably stronger. Politicians like to talk about policies, but in the end it is about people's lives. I think of the people doing jobs who were previously unemployed. I think of the businesses that were just ideas in someone's head and that today are making a go of it and providing people with livelihoods. I think of the hard-working families paying lower taxes and getting higher wages because of the first ever national living wage. I think of the children who are languishing in the care system and who've now been adopted by loving families. I think of the parents now able to send their children to good and outstanding schools, including free schools, that simply didn't exist before. I think of over 200,000 young people who've taken part in National Citizen Service, the fastest growing youth programme of its kind in the world, something that again wasn't there 6 years ago. I think of the couples who've been able to get married who weren't allowed to in the past. And I think of the people on the other side of the world who wouldn't have had clean drinking water, the chance to go to school, or even be alive, were it not for our decision to keep our aid promises to the poorest people and the poorest countries in our world. And we've used our stronger economy to invest in our health service. When I walked in there, there were 18,000 people waiting over a year for their operation. Today, it's just 800. Too many, still too long, but our NHS is a national treasure and one whose staff perform miracles, as I've seen, every day. And we've strengthened our nation's defences with submarines, destroyers and frigates and soon aircraft carriers rolling out of our shipyards to keep our country safe in a dangerous world. These are the choices and the changes that we've made. And I want to thank everyone who's given so much support to me personally over these years. The incredible team at Number 10, the civil servants whose professionalism and impartiality is one of our country's greatest strengths, and my political advisers, some of whom have been with me since the day I stood for my party's leadership 11 years ago. I want to thank my children, Nancy, Elwyn and Florence, for whom Downing Street has been a lovely home over these last 6 years. They sometimes kick the red boxes full of work. Florence, you once climbed into one before a foreign trip and said, "Take me with you." Well, no more boxes. And above all, I want to thank Samantha, the love of my life. You have kept me vaguely sane, and as well as being an amazing wife, mother and businesswoman, you have done something every week in that building behind me to celebrate the best of voluntary service in our country. We will shortly be heading to Buckingham Palace to see Her Majesty the Queen, where I'll tender my resignation as Prime Minister. and I would advise Her Majesty to invite Theresa May to form a new administration. I'm delighted that for the second time in British history, the new Prime Minister will be a woman, and once again a Conservative. I believe Theresa will provide strong and stable leadership in fulfilling the Conservative manifesto on which we were elected, and I wish her well in negotiating the best possible terms for Britain's exit from the European Union. Let me finish by saying this. The spirit of service is one of this country's most remarkable qualities. I've seen that service day in, day out in the incredible work of our armed forces, our intelligence agencies and our police. It is something I always knew, but as Prime Minister you see it so directly that it blows you away. And of course, writing those heartbreaking letters to the families who've lost loved ones is a poignant reminder of the profound scale of what these men and women give for us in the defence of our freedoms and our way of life. We must never forget that. In a different way, I've seen the same spirit of service in the amazing contributions of countless volunteers in communities up and down our country who are making our society bigger and stronger. And I'm proud that every day for the past 2 years I've used the office of Prime Minister in a non-political way to recognise and thank almost 600 of them as points of light whose service can be an inspiration to us all. For me, politics has always been about public service in the national interest. It is simple to say, but often hard to do. But one of the things that sustains you in this job is the sense that, yes, our politics is full of argument and debate, and it can get quite heated. But no matter how difficult the decisions are, there's a great sense of British fair play, a quiet but prevailing sense that most people wish their Prime Minister well and want them to stick at it and get on with the job. So I want to take this moment to say thank you to all those who've written letters and emails offering me that support, people who I'll never get to meet and never get to thank personally. It has been the greatest honour of my life to serve our country as Prime Minister over these last 6 years, and to serve as leader of my party for almost 11 years. And as we leave for the last time, my only wish is continued success for this great country that I love so very much. Thank you.
So the Cameron family, David and Samantha, and Florence, Elwyn and Nancy, standing on the doorstep of Downing Street before going to Buckingham Palace. In his speech,
Ever since I first stepped through the door behind me as Prime Minister, I have striven to make the United Kingdom a country that works not just for a privileged few, but for everyone, and to honour the result of the EU referendum. Back in 2016, we gave the British people a choice. Against all predictions, the British people voted to leave the European Union. I feel as certain today as I did 3 years ago that in a democracy, if you give people a choice, you have a duty to implement what they decide. I have done my best to do that. I negotiated the terms of our exit and a new relationship with our closest neighbours that protects jobs, our security and our union. I have done everything I can to convince MPs to back that deal. Sadly, I have not been able to do so. I tried 3 times. I believe it was right to persevere, even when the odds against success seemed high. But it is now clear to me that it is in the best interests of the country for a new Prime Minister to lead that effort. So I am today announcing that I will resign as leader of the Conservative and Unionist Party on Friday the 7th of June, so that a successor can be chosen. I've agreed with the party chairman and with the chairman of the 1922 committee that the process for electing a new leader should begin in the following week. I have kept Her Majesty the Queen fully informed of my intentions, and I will continue to serve as her Prime Minister until the process has concluded. It is, and will always remain, a matter of deep regret to me that I have not been able to deliver Brexit. It will be for my successor to seek a way forward that honours the result of the referendum. To succeed, he or she will have to find consensus in Parliament where I have not. Such a consensus can only be reached if those on all sides of the debate are willing to compromise. For many years, the great humanitarian Sir Nicholas Winton, who saved the lives of hundreds of children by arranging their evacuation from Nazi-occupied Czechoslovakia through the Kindertransport, was my constituent in Maidenhead. At another time of political controversy, a few years before his death, he took me to one side at a local event and gave me a piece of advice. He said, "Never forget that compromise is not a dirty word. Life depends on compromise." He was right. As we strive to find the compromises we need in our politics, whether to deliver Brexit or to restore devolved government in Northern Ireland, we must remember what brought us here. Because the referendum was not just a call to leave the EU, but for profound change in our country. A call to make the United Kingdom a country that truly works for everyone. I'm proud of the progress we have made over the last 3 years. We have completed the work that David Cameron and George Osborne started. The deficit is almost eliminated. Our national debt is falling, and we are bringing an end to austerity. My focus has been on ensuring that the good jobs of the future will be created in communities across the whole country, not just in London and the South East, through our modern industrial strategy. We have helped more people than ever enjoy the security of a job. We are building more homes and helping first-time buyers onto the housing ladder, so young people can enjoy the opportunities their parents did. And we are protecting the environment, eliminating plastic waste, tackling climate change, and improving air quality. This is what a decent, moderate and patriotic Conservative government on the common ground of British politics can achieve, even as we tackle the biggest peacetime challenge any government has faced. I know that the Conservative Party can renew itself in the years ahead, that we can deliver Brexit and serve the British people with policies inspired by our values. Security, freedom and opportunity. Those values have guided me throughout my career. But the unique privilege of this office is to use this platform to give a voice to the voiceless, to fight the burning injustices that still scar our society. That is why I put proper funding for mental health at the heart of our NHS long-term plan. It's why I'm ending the postcode lottery for survivors of domestic abuse. It is why the race disparity audit and gender pay reporting are shining a light on inequality, so it has nowhere to hide. And it is why I set up the independent public inquiry into the tragedy at Grenfell Tower, to search for the truth, so nothing like it can ever happen again, and so the people who lost their lives that night are never forgotten. Because this country is a union, not just a family of 4 nations, but a union of people, all of us. Whatever our background, the colour of our skin, or who we love, we stand together, and together we have a great future. Our politics may be under strain, but there is so much that is good about this country, so much to be proud of, so much to be optimistic about. I will shortly leave the job that it has been the honour of my life to hold. The second female Prime Minister, but certainly not the last. I do so with no ill will, but with enormous and enduring gratitude to have had the opportunity to serve the country I love.
Very that statement, almost in tears, saying that it has been the honour of her life to serve her country as Prime Minister, as the second female Prime Minister, she said, but certainly not the last. She stood there in the sunshine of Downing Street.